Thanks. Welcome back to the OHMazing Way. I'm Beth Reese, and I'm here with Alan Steelman today talking about the accessibility of being mindful, of looking at what your distractions are in life, and really being with them, and then also finding out what your magic is, what your calling is right here in front of you. So really pull this information to you, be really listening for what resonates with you and how you can complete this listening to this podcast or watching and just start to go out and make a difference in your daily life. So speaking of making a difference in daily life, Alan, I kind of get that you're managing a lot in your life and that you might have some tools up your sleeve for how you stay so calm and steady. I'd love it if you would share one of those with us.
Okay. Well, all of us are living in the most stressful, anxious time in the history of mankind. The number of casualties from stress-related deaths over the past 12 months are just staggering. 88,000 died from alcohol-related incidents, 72,000 from opioids, and 44,000 suicides. Now, when you add all that up, that's the equivalent. Listen, the equivalent of 10 737 airplane crashes per week in America that are all deaths from stress-related. So this is life in the digital age. It is life in what I call the ASAP lane, the anxious, stressed, addicted, and pressured lane. So how do we cope without the false wizards that we talked about in the first segment? Well, Beth has talked a lot about mindfulness being the umbrella term for both yoga and meditation. So here's some things that I do. So if you live in a large urban area, as I do and as Beth does, just driving becomes an anxious and stressful event. Now, what do most of us do? We get in, we turn on the radio, turn to some news program. That right there raises the stress level in the car. And then we're trying to move our way in and through traffic, and people are flipping us the, one finger Boy Scout salute out the side window. So I have started mindful driving. I do not turn the radio on. I put both hands on the wheel. I look at the trees. I look at the blue sky or the rainy sky if it's raining that particular day. I look at everything around me as a way of trying to just be here now. And that's the magic in breathing, is to get out of our regrets of the past, out of our worries about the future, out of our worries about our shopping list, our to-do list, and just to get here now. So mindful driving. Mindful eating is another thing, which most of us sit down and just eat to feed our mouth as opposed to eat to enjoy our food and to be in the present moment and enjoy the meal. So I've learned to eat mindfully. Walking mindfully, as opposed to walking along the sidewalk in a take no prisoners mode, meaning I'm going to get there as fast as I can. I'm not going to look anybody in the eye. I'm not going to say hello to anybody. I don't want anybody saying hello to me. Get out of my way, which is the way a lot of us do in big cities, is to walk one step at a time, take in what's around you, breathe, inhaling and exhaling on the way. So you can, those are three ways to cope with life in the city. So it's driving mindfully, eating mindfully, and walking mindfully. And then, of course, I start out there's a regimen, by the way, for some who may have a hard time making meditation a part of their daily regimen, which is the RPM method. Rise, pee, and meditate. Now, most of us, it's rise, phone, and meditate, right? Pick up your phone. No, not phone, rise, pee, and meditate. So if you will do that, and which is what I do, 30 minutes each morning, which is to breathe deeply and to try to get into the present moment and not get stressed out the minute I wake up by picking up my phone and seeing who's emailed me back and who hasn't. So those are just some of the techniques, Beth.
I love each of those, particularly RPM. It's so great.
Right.
And that is a practice the same way of even, and I just spent, some of 7 days on a silent retreat. And I actually use my phone also as my watch or clock. And what I realized the moment I checked in my phone was I had no alarm clock. There was so much more than just a phone I didn't have. all that is to say, part of what was so great about this week not having my phone was to really stop from waking up, checking my phone, going to bed, checking my phone. And I'll tell you, all the research out there, Alan and listeners, about how the vibration and the lights and the movement that our eyes and body are taking in from the phone and how that impacts our sleep, our focus, all of that. I feel like a little guinea pig because like since separating from my phone more, I'm sleeping better. I feel more calm. I'm present to my kids more. So like RPM, I'm going to remember that even in terms of like,
right.
You just don't always have to pick up your phone. You just really
Exactly.
don't. You might be
Exactly.
surprised.
Exactly.
Great. Well, tell us what's happening in the Alan Steelman world. And so you have your first book out, and tell us a little bit about that. And then I just learned this week you're working on your second book. What can you share about that?
Okay, well, I've already talked a bit about the first book, so let me talk about the second book. And we were talking earlier about the agitated mind. There's another term, not original with me, but that Beth and I have both heard many times, is the monkey mind. And it's what we're born with. And it's with us from our first breath to our last breath. And it's that agitated monkey jumping around with, some people say, up to 60,000 thoughts a day, many of them not even connected to each other, but just ruminations about the past, worries about the future. So the title of the second book is called Managing Your Monkey. Mind Fitness. So Managing Your Monkey is the title. The subtitle is Mind Fitness. And the second subtitle is Change Your Life and Save Your Life. And Beth and I both know, I just can't, since I started on this whole yoga journey, I can't even count the number of people who have told me it not only changed their lives in many cases, as it did mine and probably Beth's, but I've got a lot of people who tell me it saved their life. They were suicides waiting to happen for various reasons. So this can truly be a life-changing and in some cases even a life-saving regimen to take up. Now, what I'm doing in the second book, Beth, just to complete that thought is, as opposed to just to focus on yoga and meditation, this is taking the 6 pillars of well-being, which starts with sleep. And, no matter how physically fit you are, no matter how much you meditate, how well you eat, if you're sleep deprived, it negates the benefits of all the rest of them. So sleep is really the foundation of the other pillars. So sleep, nutrition, movement, which includes yoga, cycling, running, walking, whatever you do to move. There's an article yesterday in the New York Times about we've become such a sitting nation at work, at home, watching TV, playing video games. Beth and you and I were growing up, we were outside playing, running around, getting exercise, having friends, which also leads into the 5th pillar, which is social networks. Loneliness is becoming a huge issue among teens and kids who've grown up with their digital devices and have not built the friendships that we all had. Among seniors, it's also loneliness is a huge epidemic. So social networks being the 5th pillar, and then the final one being earthing, or grounding, which is getting out, walking around the water, the air, the green trees, just being with God's green earth. So those 6 pillars: sleep, nutrition, movement, social networks, and grounding.
I love that. And Alan, when will I be able to read that?
Well, I'm still writing, so it'll probably be 3 or 4 months before it's out.
Okay, all right.
Sure. But I do want to underline, for all of you who follow Beth, believe me, what she's telling you, it can truly change your life, if not save your life. Mm. So I hope that everyone will really take that to heart, because I cannot tell you how many friends that she and I both have met who will say both those things, or one or the other.
Yeah, that's so, thank you. And I appreciate that, and really appreciate the work that you're up to. And it is amazing how we in our daily lives now, and I was thinking about this in my morning walk, and thinking about, which, let me just say, I don't necessarily love to get up and go walking every morning, But what I do know is I know how it makes me feel and how to connect to the sounds and the sights and the colors and the movement of the air, like all of it. And I know maybe for some of you that's like, woo, that sounds so woo woo. But it's something that my doctors have prescribed to me. And I said, can you write that on a prescription pad? Because like if you don't write, like, it has to be like in a prescription pad for me to believe it. Like I have it in my refrigerator, walk 30 minutes 3 times a week or whatever it is. So, but I love what you're saying. And it is so true. And there's so much science there that just like if you want to build a muscle, let's say you want to build your biceps, so you lift weights. The research there that practicing this art that Alan is sharing about of taking care of yourself and being mindful in the moment, driving, walking, eating, all of that literally grows what's called the gray matter in our brain. So it's like building that bicep muscle. And what it means, and there's research and MRI imaging that shows this, is that when that area is building, you have the resilience and ability when you're then under stress to drop into a space of more calmness, or just the stress is happening and your brain just has a way to recall and not get so hooked in that stress cycle. And just imagine what our lives as a country, as a world would be like if we can learn to feel what it feels like when our body heats up with stress or anger, and just kind of invite that for tea, but also really think about how we want to cultivate a response and not a reaction.
Right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I mentioned the Walgreens in our brain, but we also have another one, cortisol, which is good if you're walking through a dark parking lot at night and you look and see a stranger who might want to grab your purse. That's cortisol kicking in, saying, get to my car and lock the door and get out of here. But when you're chronically and acutely stressed, the vagus nerve is carpet bombing your entire body from head to toe with cortisol. And science says, doctors say today, that 95% of all physical ailments and ailments are caused by undigested stress. You think about the food we eat and the liquids we drink, our biological process passes that through our body every 24 hours or so. Our emotions, particularly the traumatic events in our lives, get stored up as emotional knots and toxins. I guess you could call that, mental constipation, or whatever you want to call it. But over the years, when you're carrying around all these stored up traumas, it takes a toll on your physical well-being and can cause cancers and other things. So it really behooves us all to try to start accessing those feel-good chemicals. And one other point, anyone who's listening says, well, God, yoga's weird or it's hard, particularly men who say, that's not macho enough for me. I can, plus I'll be embarrassed. I see women doing things I can't do. They can do all these things with their bodies, put their legs up behind their head and so forth. If you can breathe, you can do this. This is not about doing the pose correctly. It's about calming the agitated mind. So don't worry about what the person on the mat next to you is doing. Just breathe and be in the present moment, and you will get the magic of this the way Beth and I and so many others have.
Absolutely. And the other thing, you mentioned again, that agitated mind. Like, here's the thing I know I'm really, and even just recently, like really getting and embracing, the mind is going to wander. The mind is going to think. That's what it does. And so to think that people who are meditating are sitting and not thinking any thoughts, or to try it once or twice and be like, my mind keeps thinking, it keeps wondering, this isn't working, right? Like I was people last night, we were like, we all suck at meditation, air quotes suck. It's the getting, like that, the gift is the moment that when you notice your mind wandering, you're like, there you are, you've left, come on back, right?
I saw the Dalai Lama interviewed a week ago. He said exactly the same thing. Now, if the Dalai Lama has trouble with a wandering mind, we all do, because he is the king or the emperor, whatever you want to call, of mindfulness. So the Dalai Lama said he's been doing this for 60 years, and that monkey still runs around in his head the way it does with the rest of us. So don't worry if your mind wanders. Just stick with it, and believe me, it is magic.
That's right. That's right. Well, Alan, I have so enjoyed being with you today. And as your next book launches, please come back and we can talk about that and hear more of the tools that you're using to be present in your own daily life. And so will you come back?
I absolutely will. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And to everyone out there listening and watching, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with me, be with Alan. And as always, remember, be amazing. Thanks. See you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.